those of you that are brand new in a call like this, and maybe you've never met me before, I've done things the wrong way, the right way somehow. Built 3 agencies in the past, and now obviously part of one of the biggest SaaS platforms in the agency world. And I can tell you that running paid ads is a very difficult thing. It seems so unethical to not run ads as an advertising agency for yourself, right? So I want to make you feel comfortable in running these ads, especially to acquire new clients. How many of you are running paid ads? I know Brad said he launched paid ads last week. April raises her hands. How many of you guys failed running paid ads? You've launched it before, then you turned it off, didn't feel comfortable, and you came back to the drawing board and you said, you know what, Paulson, I'll go with the organic side until I've got more clients and I'll go back into paid ads. Anybody in that predicament? I see a few of you. Awesome. Okay, cool. Let me skip through the fancy stuff. Let's see. 4 pillars about paid ads that you have to really, really pay attention to. Okay? Outside of the biases, the budget differences, and all that, I'll talk about that. So when it comes to paid ads, the hard thing is to look at yourself as a client for yourself. It's nearly impossible because you have a ton of bias, right? And it may seem simple and easy. You know what's the one thing marketing agencies are, almost notoriously terrible at? Creating an offer for themselves. It's nearly impossible. Why? Because we coach ourselves, we pay for marketing, we pay for consulting, we paid for mentorship, and we bring some seriously good stuff to the table, don't we? So it's hard to think that something is not strong versus the other. Some of you that run paid ads, some of you that run Google ads or SEO or ManyChat marketing or whatever, funnel systems, like every single one of them has a tremendous value to a customer. So it's really hard to differentiate what is a better offer or what could be behind a better, stronger fulfillment, right? So typically agencies are typically terrible at offers. When I ask an agency or even a SaaS company nowadays, right, what is your exact offer? Mostly everybody tells me how they deliver the offer or what it is that they deliver versus the actual offer. Okay? Before I go into the offer side, I want to talk about audience as well. When it comes to paid advertising, I don't like depending on platform insights or platform audiences. What I mean by that is I'm not going to go through Facebook's interests, behaviors, things like that, and depend on the platforms to find me my audience. I'm going to bring the audience to the platform and just depend on that. So for example, the reason why we continuously told everybody to run organic marketing is because by the time you run organic marketing, 2 things happen. You get a clear idea of what your audience is like. You get a clear idea of what kind of offer actually works in the market. And you also get usually a good opportunity to collect the list within the audience. So when it comes to paid advertising, guys, always run custom audiences. You guys with me so far? Now, if your audience is not big enough, okay, you won't be able to run custom audiences. It'll be very difficult because you'll burn through those audiences so fast that it creates a ton of ad fatigue left and right, and then your cost just skyrockets left and right. Your ads run out, they burn out, your offer burn out. So when you go into markets that are too small, guess what you have to do? You have to have a multi-offer approach or a multi-creative approach, multi-copy approach. It has to be just so much more variation in order for that ad fatigue to not ruin your whole entire plan. You guys with me so far? Okay. So step 1 is making sure you have the audience that is essentially on a CSV custom list that you can literally load up into the platforms and say, here you go, Facebook, here's my 10,000 people or 50,000 people that are part of my audience. and then you're running advertisements against that specific audience, not depending on the platform audiences or its own interest behaviors and things like that. Any questions on that? Anything you guys want to add to that? Go ahead, Brad.
So I think someone asked this in the chat, but like I have a list that I've uploaded for 15,000 phone and email, and like it's not getting impressions. So what's a good size for you?
Well, when it comes to custom audiences, usually they say do not go below like 1,000 to 1,200 at the minimum, right? And remember, Facebook is not gonna match all those people regardless, right? If your list is, let's say, if that CSV has like an address, zip code, phone number, full names, and things like that, it's got more data points to match against an actual profile, right? But if it's just like name and email, and if it's not the email that they use to sign up for Facebook or anything like that, or it's not something that they use, it's going to be more difficult for the algorithm to really pick each other up, right? So you can have 100,000 member list, but only like 500 or 600 may get matched on Facebook when you run custom audiences like that. But ideally, if you can get that initial launch of custom audiences to be at least 1,000 or more, you're in a much safer zone, right? Now the key thing is this: when you look at this whole thing as like a science project, right? In the science projects, guess what? You have independent variables and dependent variables, right? After a while, no matter what you do, guess what? Your audience stays the same. You'll kind of max out on the audience because that industry is not changing too drastically, right? So to give you an example, if you guys are going after, let's say, interior designers, and there is 50,000 interior designers that have a business on Facebook, that number is not going to fluctuate too high from maybe like 45,000 to 55,000. It's just going to almost stay the same. So as a science project, you cannot change the audience. It just stays stagnant. It's not dynamic, right? You may add a little bit here and there, or buy more data from somewhere, or scrape more data, but collectively it's the same type of avatar. So what could actually change? Your variety of things is going to come from the offers and the creatives, right? So once you have your offer down, you'll be able to now build creatives, maybe like 6, 7 variations depending on your budget. Okay, so as a science project, your independent variable is the audience, your dependent variable is like the offer and the creatives behind it. That's constantly changing. Every single month, every single 2 months, you're gonna have to constantly change the angle of your offer, the language around your offer. Your offer doesn't have to change, but the presentation of the offers have to change, because otherwise ad fatigue will kick in. You'll burn through your budget, you're going to skyrocket cost, and you're not going to get a lot of people that sign up for either phone calls or Zoom calls, or some of you run it straight to demo-less funnels, like whatever your sales process is. So the 4 pillars are audience, offer. The third one is copywriting. Copywriting is difficult too, in the sense that you have to speak to the end result of the client, right? So what I mean by that is, let me give you an example. Just a random example that I just thought about when I was putting the slides together this morning. Solar industry. I was actually, this is actually from an actual advertisement I saw, I think last night, from a solar agency, right? And I thought they did a great job on how they presented the copywriting. Look at the 2 different styles for this, pretty much a similar offer, right? Or maybe I should have said advertising system for solar businesses, but either way, you get my example. One is speaking to the result of the market that they're looking for, right? Which is, here's 25 solar roof installations this month guaranteed, right? That's a whole different feel versus here's an advertising system for solar businesses. Let me just change this to an advertising system, right? Marketing system, right? When you look at these two languages, right? Two different presentations of the same offer. Ultimately, it's the same offer. You're going to provide marketing. But there's two presentations here. And this is a big key component of paid advertising, right? You want to make sure your headlines or your offers, or if you have letters or any kind of words in the creatives, or let's say some of you may do video ads, right? In the video ads, the same exact thing should apply. You should speak to the end result of the clients, right? Are you guys following me? It's awfully too quiet now. You guys following me? Anybody want another example? Give me another market. I'm just going to go off my head and give you another example.
Gyms.
Let me look at the chat. Okay, gyms, right? Looking lean, Paulson. Yeah, bro. Hitting the gym lately. Will, hope you're doing well, man. But yeah, let's talk about gyms, right? I can sit here and say, here's a CRM platform for gym owners. The problem with that is I'm talking about a tool, I'm talking about a transportation type of system versus like the destination of where I want that gym to get to, right? So I rather say 100 memberships enrolled guaranteed this month. Well, how the hell are you going to do that, Paulson? Well, glad you asked. Let's get on a phone call. Because the only point that I have that I want to achieve with this paid advertising is generating a phone call. I'm not trying to sell them on this advertising. I have a singular focus for that component in the sales process, right? It's the phone call. I'm not trying to generate a message either. I want them to have a phone call with me. That's it. Now, some of you have a 2-call close system or a 1-call close system, right? If you watched Alex Shalinsky's whole entire, event, we talked a lot about 1-call close system. I personally think 1-call close is absolutely great for organic marketing. It's pretty miserable for paid advertising. Why? Because you cannot differentiate between conversion versus interest. It's really hard. Eric's nodding his head. Right? Because guess what? I want to optimize for phone calls first before I optimize for appointments or leads. How do I know if my language is working? I don't unless I separate these pieces out and say, you know what, let me focus in on generating the leads, then I'll focus in on phone calls, then I'll focus in on appointments, then I'll focus on demos. It's a ongoing process, right? So you have to really look at the language and how you're presenting your offers, right? If somebody randomly came up to me and asked me, Paulson, what exactly can you do for the dental industry or dental practices? I simply will tell them I usually can bring in about 8 to 12 dental implant patients. That's what I do. Dental implants. That's it. Well, how do you do that? Well, glad you asked. Let's jump on a quick phone call, see if it makes sense. I'll share my strategy with you. And if you feel like it applies to you, let's figure out a way for us to work together. Right? Because my intention is to just generate the phone calls. You see how scientific you have to get with this, right? You guys with me so far? Okay. So moving on. Let me see. So the sales, so we talked about audience. I said custom audience with a reasonable size is important. Offer, speaking to the end result of the market. Copywriting, you can test out long form versus short form. The more resistance you put, the higher cost you will have, and the better quality you will raise in all steps. Okay, so if you have a long form copy that's like 50, 100 words long, people are having to read all of that. Guess what? You're creating resistance for them to go through that channel or that gate, right? But if you feel like there's way too many calls or way too many leads and not enough active buyers, guess what? Now you need to create some sort of a resistance that makes sense to move them through. Okay, I'll give you more insights to this. Most of you, I promise you, most of you, I recommend a 2-call close. Why? Because I rather have an appointment setter that pounds the wave and filters these phone calls for me, so I'm not wasting time on my valuable time for demos. I don't want to be talking to demos that are not ready to go. 1-call close works. I'm not against it, but they better be qualified. Because we're running operations too, right? A lot of us are solopreneurs and things like that in the early stages. You don't have enough time to waste on stupid demos, right? That are just not even qualified. Okay, so decide, what is the sales model you want. Do you want to pay $400-500 for an appointment setter that'll probably work maybe 3 to 4 hours a day? That's going to just continuously pound the leads for you, and they'll just get qualified demos on your calendar for you. Okay, that's the way I would go about it. Anybody follow me? You're good with that? I see.
Yep.
Okay, let me actually pay attention to the chat actually. Steve says great. Yazim says what's considered big enough. That was the audience. Yeah. Real estate. Yeah. Somebody asked about real estate. Offer language around real estate. Work with me. I'll get you 3 houses closed. That's it. That's all I will do for you. You're gonna pay me $1,500 a month if you want me to get those leads for you and help you close those deals. Or if you already have your own opportunities, no problem. Get into my $200 consolidated software system. We will organize all your sales activities for you. But at the end of the day, I'll get you 3 closes this month. You may make $2,000 or $3,000 per close. I don't know. Some realtors, don't be fooled. Some of them can't even close a kitchen cabinet, but they'll tell you they can close everything. Right? You got to be really careful of who you're working with when they tell you that they have some serious sales capabilities. Most people are great at closing referrals and friends and family that they're familiar with, and there's some trust there. But when you throw strangers into the mix, you'll really test out their sales capabilities, right? And that's what you want to really understand and see if they're able to handle. Okay? And based on that, you can present an offer. Liquor stores. Well, I'm going to probably skip liquor stores so I don't have to worry about the compliance team reaching out to me for my webinar. Let's see. What's another industry that we can talk to? Okay, if there's any other ones you want me to just kind of give you an example to, I can do that. Yasmin says, do you have any recommendations for good appointment setters, especially consulting and coaching businesses? I'm a big fan of appointment setters in South America, and I'm not biased one way or another. Reason why is because they're in the same time zone. They can do both English and Spanish, and they're fairly coachable. India, Asia, I like to use team members there for fulfillment stuff, technology development, or advertising or building. I'm not a fan of using Eastern sales team members. I just never had a personal great experience in that. But South American, Central American, yeah, 100%, they crush it, and you can run Spanish ads too, and that really is an interesting spot. Let's see. Linda Kirk says med spa. Med spa. Let's see. Work with me. I'll get you 5 body contouring patients guaranteed this month. What's the point of me saying that? I want them to ask me how that's possible. Then it just goes into a phone call. I'm glad you asked. Let's jump on a quick phone call or a Zoom call. I'll share my strategy with you, and you tell me if you feel like this would work for your business. And if so, let's create something, right? Steve says, where would you look for South American appointment setters? I would just go to all of, Either use the high level job network, you'll get about 300 spams, and you can decide whether you want to interview somebody or not. You can go through Facebook, advertising groups, virtual assistant groups, remote workers groups. Some people, if you have the budget for it, some people even hire bigger agencies that go through the vetting process and train team members. But you got to tread really lightly on that as well. Some of them are not as trained as you may think they are. They may have this massive, magnificent course for the remote workers, but doesn't mean it generates results, right? So I like individual freelancers rather than going with recruitment agencies. I have nothing against them, but it just, I just got to figure out what's going to work for me. And typically, guess what? If you just are launching paid ads, you don't need a full timer anytime soon, right? Even if we had a 200 leads, you can run a small sales shop with just a part-timer appointment setter that works maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, and they're just making 50 to 60 phone calls a day for you, maybe even a little longer, depending on how fast they are. And the key thing is, I'll promise you this: most agencies fail remote team members. It's not the other way around. Okay, and it's typically because we don't set the right expectations, we don't train them, or after that initial enrollment of them becoming a team member, we kind of let go of that hand that we used to hold. Let me mute somebody here. Okay, cool. It's typically the opposite, right? We don't spend enough time with them to train them in our system, and we let go and we assume that they're going to just handle that component for us. But either way, that's the way I would go about it. So your sales model, I recommend the tool called Close for paid advertising. This allows me to optimize between leads versus conversions. We talked about an example. Any questions on this before I continue on? Are you guys getting ideas out of this? You getting some what's the word? You're getting some warnings before you launch your paid ads, at least? Okay. Okay, good. Perfect. So a couple of things that you want to pay attention to, parameters wise, before you go live with your paid ads. Is there organic demand for the offer? Like, when you take on your own clients, what's one of the first things you ask? Has anybody bought this thing before? Before we even run paid ads, right? So just like that, you have to ask yourself, has there been any kind of organic demand? If there hasn't been any organic demand, paid advertising is not going to bail you out. Okay? Paid advertising will not bail you out. If it's good on organic, it'll excel with paid advertising. If it is not, it'll, be terrible on paid advertising. It just won't lift. Okay? The other thing is the size of the audience. If the audience is too small, you're better off going back to the drawing board, scraping more, buying more, and finding a bigger sized audience. Okay? I rarely see somebody just going straight to advertising without a list. You must have a list that you can go through and run custom audiences. Okay? Ad fatigue. Ad fatigue is really common. Guess what? Guess what happens? We all finally come up with this one offer, right? And we'll use that one offer for like 15, 20 different creatives, right? That quite often could create ad fatigue, but it's the same offer. Man, this guy's been guaranteeing 20 installations for the last month, right? So what you want to do is, do you remember in the SaaS Fast Track program, we talked about gateway offers versus core offers? This is where you introduce some of those gateway offers and start building your audience as you go instead of just depending on scraping them alone, right? It's okay to just have some sort of an ecosystem. Maybe it's an ebook or a lead magnet or something that starts to develop the size of the audience as you go through it. But I wouldn't put too much dollars behind that. But it's something I would essentially have maybe $20 a day, $10 a day, something like that. Very minimal. Okay. Ad fatigue happens because the audience size doesn't change. And your offer has to change often. And guess what? Most of us don't create enough variations. Dynamic creatives is something you want to use if you're familiar with Facebook advertising. There is a way to set up dynamic creatives, but that will only be helpful if the size of the audience is big enough. If it's under like, quarter million or, 300,000 people on that size of the audience, you don't want to run dynamic creatives. You're going to burn through that. You're not going to get much out of it. But let's say, for example, some of you are in big industries like real estate where there's like 3 million people, then something like dynamic creatives is going to help you. Right? If you guys, is this good info? Are you guys following me so far? Okay, cool. Lookalike audiences doesn't work. Period. It doesn't work. Why? Because you typically don't have enough data. You're building small audiences, you're adding audiences, you just don't have enough data to have enough ammo. Like if once your account, that ad account gets bigger and bigger, I would say after like a year, you can turn on lookalike audience and see if that gives you a lot of different varieties. But after running so much paid ads, I can tell you lookalike audience is not going to be that helpful unless that initial audience that you entered into the ad account is so pure and it is so good. And you got some, it's not from like, like D7 Lead Finder that every marketer has access to. That's not going to work. Okay. Retargeting platform as a choice. Once you have an offer that's moving, right? Once you have an offer that's moving and you're getting leads, you should get about 2 to 3 leads a day when you're running paid ads. And I'll tell you a budget to go after as well. Once you have that coming along, then you would turn on retargeting of some kind. It depends on your market, right? So your primary vehicle, I recommend Facebook to start off because it is cost effective versus Google Ads, even though Google Ads is, to me, a better platform in advertising in general. But it's hard to go into Google Ads without an offer that makes sense. It's a longer process to optimize it. Okay, so I always recommend you starting with your organic email marketing, all that. You have your offer kind of confirmed. Then you go with Facebook advertising. And then what you want to do is retarget with Instagram if you possibly can. Okay, or even Audience Network if you can. But I 100% recommend a retargeting platform. So if you're about 80% of the budget, 60 to 70% of the budget should be on the main core. 10% should be on your audience building, like a lead magnet of some kind. And on the back end, you want to spend about 20%, maybe even less sometimes for your retargeting. Okay? Is that making sense? Are you guys following me so far? Okay, I get a lot of nodding heads. A lot of distressed faces too. It's like, crap, I launched ads already, Paulson. Why'd you do this too late? Okay, cool. Perfect. So, budget. In our automotive agency in 2020, the budget that we went with was around, we started at like $800 to kind of confirm offers. Within the first like 2 weeks, we started getting leads in, right? And they were dud leads. They weren't good leads. But we saw that the creatives were working, the lead ads were working, so we didn't jump into conversion ads right out the gate. We started with lead ads. And after we started getting about 2 to 3 leads a day, we moved to about 1,200 for the most part, okay? Now, your cost of acquisition is going to be high, okay? And that's okay. As long as you don't go month to month, as long as you're not offering free services, as long as you're making sure you're closing them with like a minimum 2 to 3 month plan. Okay, that's why most of the agencies, they do a 3-12 renewal. So meaning an average client should last about 15 months. So I'll tell somebody like Yasmin, hey Yasmin, let's get started. Give us 90 days to prove the pudding for you and figure it all out for you. After 90 days, we'll renew for either 6 months or 12 months based on performance. Would that work for you? Typical clients will say that's okay. Now we know they're going to cancel as soon as they don't, they don't see leads, or as soon as they don't get comfortable with something, they may cancel. But even then, you want to set the standard and say, here's the way we work. It's 3 months up front, and we move into a renewal based on results. Okay? So if that's the case, you can afford an acquisition cost of 300 to 600. And I'm being very, very, it's typically higher. Okay, I'm being very conservative here. Typically on range, you're gonna see 500 to 800 per closed client, not lead or anything. Okay, per closed contract, and this is for somebody who's charging $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Okay, so how many of you guys will spend $800 to get $1,500 a month back? Most of us, right? So your cost of acquisition is going to be around probably 40 to 50% of that monthly revenue. Now, when it comes to SaaS, you're going to see even higher cost of acquisition in some scenarios if you don't have a lot of social proof. If your social proof is high, I've seen it as low as $80 to $90 on a cost of acquisition. But as you build up more assets, as you build up more case studies and proof in the pudding for your SaaS component, you're going to see the cost go down as time goes. But in the beginning of the launch, you're going to probably see just as high of a acquisition cost like you would do for regular agency services. Okay? AdWords obviously is going to be, a little bit more higher, and this 1,200 to 2,000 per month for Facebook, I included the Instagram retargeting cost. Now, if all your clients are on Instagram, okay, that needs to be your primary vehicle. If all your clients are on LinkedIn, that needs to be your primary vehicle. If all your clients are on YouTube, that needs to be your primary vehicle. I'm not set to Facebook versus Instagram versus Google. You need to pick a primary vehicle or of a channel that you're going to do everything, predominantly. Then select a retargeting platform. I'm not a big fan of retargeting on the same platform. I like to make them feel like I'm surrounding them as if they're going to another platform. Right? I want them to see me in multiple areas, not just the same exact one. Okay? And you'll have same exact platform retargeting regardless, but at a very small budget. Okay? I see a few more comments here. Let's see. Let's see. Aaron says, to get a CSV list of my audience, would you recommend hiring someone on Fiverr? I remember paying a guy $30, some guy in Pakistan on Fiverr, and he brought me one of the best lists I've ever had. It was like 5,000 or 6,000 people in there, and I've paid $2,000 with like a big agency that scraped the industry as well, and I had better results with the guy on Fiverr. But it's not about the source. It's about their method of how they scrape, right? So it's a hit or miss, to be honest, Aaron. I mean, I've lost plenty of money and done the opposite, depending on what it is. Email brokers. I've had at least 4 or 5 email brokers. Some of them are good in some seasons. Some of them are not as good in some seasons. So it just depends on it really goes down to their method of scraping or obtaining the data. That's really what it comes down to. But you have to keep trying multiple sources. But if you find a set of lists or audience that's really good, then you're set. Like, you shouldn't have to do audience purchase or anything like that too often. Once you have that list and that's your industry and the avatar you're going after, that just becomes your independent variable in your science project. You don't have to change that too drastically. Okay? So that is a one-time thing. Will says 100% on lookalike audiences. The only one we've had work super well is a 2 to 3 Stripe audience based on 5 years of data. Yeah, I mean, how many agencies starting off is going to have that kind of delicate, sensitive data? Not too many, right? So that's why I'm not a big fan of lookalike audiences, especially on Facebook. It just, if your data is really pure, then yes, you can build something off of it. But I just haven't had any personal experiences yet, and we've done at least $6 or $7 million in paid advertising, to say the least. Okay, and that includes for clients too. We don't use lookalike audiences for client delivery either. Market saturation difference. So if you're going after an industry, guys, how many of you, oh, let me get a good feel for it. All of March, we talked about niching down, niching down, niching down. How many of you made a decision yet on niching down? Where are we at with that? Give me a one if you've at least 80% of the way decided on an industry. Okay, cool. Okay, great. So now what you want to look at is market saturation, right? So if I go after an industry that is absolutely new to the marketing world, like let's say, for example, interior design is one of the most upcoming industries during COVID in my mind. A lot of people are wanting to fix up their homes, their lofts or vacation homes or whatever, right? So people are spending money there. And recently I've seen several agencies just kind of crush it there. But when I look at it as an industry, it's a new industry for marketers, and for the interior designers, hiring outside marketers and salespeople is a new experience for them. So they're not saturated. So when that happens, guess what? You have to educate that market before they can become an active buyer, right? Or you're on the risk of their customer experience being like very sensitive, like they just never have experienced how it is, or created offers, or discounted their packages before, and nobody's ever asked them about their customers or things like that. So you have to be really careful of running paid ads for yourself in those industries as well, because they may not opt in, right? Or the opposite can happen. Everybody opts in, but they don't want marketing because they're scared of marketing. They've never went with outside resources, right? So you'll find out information in those industries as you go through it. Saturated markets, guess what? You typically are pretty stable when it comes to running ads. Chiropractors, real estate, med spa, automotive, these are fairly saturated markets. Guess what? When they're signing up for something, they know what they're signing up for. When they're opting into one of your paid advertising that says guaranteed 20 patients, they are signing up for exactly that. They know you're a marketing agency. They understand what it is. So guess what? You don't have to educate them too much. So there's pros and cons of going after saturated versus unsaturated, and both of those will have two different effects on paid advertising for yourself. Now, I recommend you guys starting with lead forms in the beginning, maybe for like a month or so. It's going to give you trashy leads. You're not going to be happy with the lead quality. Just like how your clients won't be happy with the lead quality if you ran a lot of lead forms. But why do I recommend running it? You're going to optimize your Facebook algorithm, your ad account algorithm, right? Where it's going after a certain type of client. So that's one. The other is, guess what? You've only proven your offer organically. You don't know if it's going to work with paid ads just yet. Okay? So just because you're going to be able to get leads at a lower cost, even though it's not as qualified, you want to reconfirm your offers on paid ads at least for a month and see if you're getting about 2 to 3 new leads coming in based on the offer. So I recommend lead ads in the beginning. Once you feel comfortable, once you're starting to see traction, you can decide whether you want to gate your channel. Okay, what I mean by gating your channel is like, Paulson, I've got 100 leads. I know 80 of them are not qualified, but I still have to call 80 to make sure they're not qualified, right? That's a lot of pressure. How do I not do that? What you want to do is set up a funnel and run conversion ads, right? And you can optimize against that data. It's going to cost you a lot more. the cost of acquisition that I shared with you is based on conversion ads, not lead forms. Okay, so you'll see lower costs for lead forms for lower quality leads. But either way, you have to decide where you are in the sales process. Am I ready to bring in an appointment setter? If I have an appointment setter, guess what? I have no problem running lead forms. Why? Because somebody else is going to make those phone calls for me. Why would I run conversion ads and have less volume while I have a resource that'll pound the phones for me? Right? So if you go with that route, you can easily run lead forms for a fairly long amount of time, knowing that most are not okay, they're not going to be qualified, but you're going to maximize your audience. You're going to maximize your budget. You're going to maximize your offers. Where conversion ads, you will gate and filter out people that might have been qualified, but mostly more qualified than ever before, right? So you have to decide what you want, right? Depending on how mature your sales process is. Does this make sense? This is a pretty important component of advertising for yourself that you got to decide on. Does this make sense? Okay, April says yes. People says yes. Okay, cool. Let's see. Yes, yeah. Steve says by lead forms, do you mean lead ads? Yes, I do mean lead ads. Um, let's see. And also in lead forms itself, okay, there's a few tricks that can kind of optimize it for you. You could you can uncheck the box where it doesn't autofill, right? Where somebody is manually having to enter in their name, phone number, and email, or whatever information you request, versus the autofill. The autofill will drive the cost down. You'll get a ton more leads, but more than likely you're gonna have bad leads in there. So even within the lead forms, you can test out the checkbox versus the non-checkbox. Sometimes in the lead forms, I don't even know if the Facebook policies allow you to do that now, but last year it allowed you to create a custom question. So you can have a fourth question in there that says, "Is it okay if we reach out to you regarding our offer?" Like you can be very specific even in lead forms, okay, or lead ads. But that filters that creates a new channel gating, right? So it's like they're not going to get through that unless they check it off. So there's a few tricks up the sleeves that I would say you can go along with lead ads before you go into conversion ads. Conversion ads is what I would do after you've sold at least 10 clients and your offers are concrete. Your offer is making sense to the market. You're starting to have case studies. You're starting to have testimonials. You're starting to have people reach out to you even more organically. That's when you go with conversion ads. Why? Because you want to filter and not deal with more phone calls, but more qualified introductions or demos. Okay. What would you recommend for a daily budget for nationwide? Aaron, I think this is the budget that we went with. Let me share this with you. This is the budget we had in automotive and dental, about the same. 1,200 to 2,000 a month is what I recommend for Facebook and Instagram. Instagram being the retargeting platform. And that's Facebook. And I recommend Facebook first after you've already done email marketing or organic stuff. When it comes to AdWords, 3,000 to 4,500 is what I recommend, depending whether you're gonna go with traditional AdWords versus like YouTube marketing. Okay, YouTube usually is a little bit more cheaper if the offer and the messaging is accurate, but that's not an easy thing. You kind of have to have a little bit of production skills and ability to kind of articulate your offer well for YouTube to really kick off. But YouTube typically is a little bit more cheaper, believe it or not, versus the regular AdWords. But this is a budget that I would recommend. I would assume about 600 to 800 should be your cost of acquisition, depending on the strength of your offer. Right? There's always a disclaimer. It depends on the strength of your offer. If your offer is not speaking to the end result of the client, where Aaron, you're in roofing, right? Is that right? I can't remember. Was it solar or roofing, Aaron? What was that?
I was doing MMA gyms.
Okay, so you're doing gyms, right? So really what you want to do is promise memberships, right? Um, whatever that number is, you got to figure out for yourself based on the fulfillment component. And you can say, hey, 25 new members enrolled guaranteed, or we give you money back, right? That's the way I would present an offer. Now, let's say you bring them 20 memberships out of the 25 you promised. You have to create a case scenario that evaluates why five extra memberships didn't happen. And you can negotiate at that point and say, listen, you've never had 20 memberships in the past. We've missed five as we promised. How can we make this right for you? Can we give you 10 days off of marketing in the next month? Right? And that's usually how it just kind of gets massaged down and you go to the next month. But that's the way I would position it. I would position it to the end result of the client. Okay. Let's have an open discussion. Anybody want to unmute and kind of share your experiences with paid advertising or any scenarios that you would want me to kind of explore with you? I'm happy to do that. Let me also check the Facebook group for comments there. I don't think I watched it. Let's see. Okay, cool. Anybody want to unmute, share your experiences on paid advertising for yourself, or even have any questions? How many of you guys are just scared of paid advertising for yourself? I get it. It's different running your own dollars versus somebody else's dollars against you. You know what was one of the biggest hacks for me? I let somebody else run my own ads. Couldn't do it well enough because I'm just too biased. I like overnight I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, no, that's not gonna work. I'm changing up my funnels literally 3 a.m. 2 days later, did it again. New funnel, new branding. Oh, I need to change my entire business name. This doesn't make any sense. Like this is the types of things that I was doing left and right. So I called up one of my friends and he's an advertising guy as well. I was like, hey, would you run my advertising for me and I'll run your advertising for you? And it just removes a lot of biases. I promise you. We all overvalue our own services, including myself. And, it's hard to come up with offers that are getting more stronger and stronger, especially if you're trying to undercut the market. Okay, if you're gonna be the Bentley of the market, guess what? You have to think the reverse, right? You should have no problem running 10 grand into Google AdWords if you're gonna go down that route of being the Bentley. But I recommend you partnering up with an agency or letting somebody else or a freelancer come in and take over your ads for yourself. And they're just handling one account, right? And I recommend you just paying them like it's a retainer, just like how you would do that for somebody else. Maybe barter services if you feel comfortable running ads. But that's the way I would go about it because it's just too much bias. Hey, Crystal, go ahead. I see that you said you had a question.
I was just curious, when you were talking about this, I was checking out the marketplace. How would you rate high levels version of, the marketplace when it comes to their ad management? Is that something like, do they share a data dashboard? Do they send like
Mhm.
reports? I'm just curious if
Yeah. They
what's your thoughts?
Yeah, they run. It's a cruise liner, right? So the negative of marketplace, I'll be the first one to tell you, there's like 800 or 900 clients a month from what I know, right? So it's a massive like operation, right? So if you call them 8 a.m., hey, I need something changed, it ain't gonna happen until your list, your request is gonna come up at that order based on all the other clients. So the movement is difficult, but when it comes to branding, websites, those types of things is what I would use marketplace for. Paid advertising it's perfectly fine if you've bought enough time with your clients, if you've set the right expectations with your clients, if you have concrete offers. If you don't have those things, I would set the right expectations. I wouldn't say no, don't use them. They have a ton of experience, I mean, I was one of the first guys to build that team, so I can tell you there's a lot of experience. but it's not the same thing as like a freelancer that has 10 clients that can move so agile, make changes. It's not the same. But data wise, they run everything in your ad account now. Previously, we used to run everything in our own, but I don't think they do that anymore. I think we run everything in your ad account. You have complete ownership. We just get added to those accounts and we'll just handle everything for you. So it's a it just depends on your scenario. For clients, I if you have enough time, like onboarding usually takes 10-12 days sometimes. That's a long time. I get that. But if you have that kind of relationship with your clients and maybe you're already offering services and they're already happy and you want to add something to it, people use us more now for additional services of what they already do, right? Not necessarily just wait to wow them in the first ever experience with you. Like that's not what I
Yeah.
would use Marketplace for, unless it's a branding type of service. That's about the most vulnerable I can get without making my team members unhappy. But
All
but
right.
that's but that's the way I would look at it. Your own paid ads, I would get a freelancer to just run it because there's way too many. Like you have to have a lot of offers and creatives and things like that because your audience sizing is not moving, right? That's a very stagnant number. So you have to be like you have to have like 20, 30 different combinations of angles and offer languages and things like that where how many of you guys have funnel hacked a ton of agencies and you're like, dude, I don't even know how they're like launching this many ads. And I don't even know how they have like 50 lead magnets. She's like, I feel like I'm just behind. How many of you felt that? I promise you, it's the same exact ad account, same guys that are running it with five, six different variations. And you just see it all in five different angles, right? But yeah, don't, please do run your paid ads. It is the holy grail of how you can scale. You're not going to scale to the moon with organic marketing by itself. It's organic is just the foundation, but to scale an agency, you better crack code on paid ads. Then you crack the code on your sales process, right? Then you have to let go control of running the operations. This is the chronological way to really scale a business in my mind. Every business that I would ever do, I start with organic, then paid ads, and crack the code there. Then I'll crack the code on sales. Then I crack the code on operations. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Just giving you ideas.
Another question.
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
As far as like the, home services industry, do you typically see, because a lot of people are, businesses are typically like in this like B2C. So if they were, to get a customer to come to them, they'd want them to either get an online quote with a quote form, like, and it spits out their quote, their pricing, they could book online, or typically doing a sales call to where they could actually pitch and do an instant pricing or an in-person estimate. So those are the typical ones that we see. Out of your experience of, being in Go High Level and your own business experience as well, what is your opinion the most effective? I think calls, like getting on the phone, or in-person estimates, because online booking conversion rates are just so much lower than actually speaking with somebody.
Yeah. So we're speaking of advertising for your clients, right? And their
Yeah.
business process.
So
I
like a funnel that would do the work, but like
Yeah.
what would like the main goal of it
Yeah.
be?
Yeah, I think you have the ability to kind of like cheat and not have to hire a ton of people when you go that process. But the disconnect happens when something that gets bought is not expected to deliver what they intentionally bought it for, right? So there's always disconnects there of, well, I thought I bought this is not what it is, and then they're going through refunds and things like that, right? So I'm a big fan of a tool call close system. I'm not a fan of demoless process. I can vouch for it. Five, six reasons of why I think agencies should start with demoless. Like no funnel that just automatically does sales. Like that doesn't last forever. You have to get in front of your clients for them to feel comfortable. You have to get in front of them anyway for onboarding. You do. You're not gonna onboard them without you being in front of it. Might as well just have an extra call. Like it just sets the right standard. So Crystal, I'm with you on it. Like I like to be in front of the client and, you know, sell that way. Um, can you sell without you being in front of it and just on an online platform? Yeah, you can. I don't think it's hard, but you better have a bigger budget. You better be able to refund people. You also better have the right language so there's like expectations of what they're actually purchasing. And it works for repeat customers better, right? It doesn't work as well for brand new somebody who just found you out. But it's always best to have a person, a human, a face behind the brand that's going to help them kind of move forward versus like this corporate branding that they may or may not like. And you don't even know if it's the right offer, even though they may take the offer for them, right? We don't know if that's the right offer for them, right? Just because they're financially able to buy it, want to buy it, and they think it's the right thing doesn't mean they should.
Got
Is
it.
that fair?
And yeah, and just a quick update too. I know I haven't hopped on a call in a long time.
Yeah.
Since like, I don't know, a few months ago, our pricing, I remember when we were going through like a whole pricing thing, we're now up to $3,200. And that covers a 4 month course.
Yeah.
They do it. And then we have $99 a month to maintain the software. So we instantly like increase like our ROI, and we've like got paid ads, like everything's up on our side and everything. Our customers are wanting ads as well too, for customers, not hiring. So they
Yeah.
extra services I'm exploring
Yeah.
into.
I'm pretty sure we went through at least 5 or 6 strategy sessions, just kind of ironing out offers and and I think I don't remember if it was like 4 or 5 months ago or not. You were doing a lot of organic stuff too in the beginning, doing webinars and stuff like that. So I think I can see how this high ticket education gateway offer kind of works because they want to be self sufficient, right? And they don't want to spend dollars on another marketing company if they don't have to. They see it as like a one time thing, and they back themselves into a $99 SaaS offer, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah. So, yep. 3,200 up front. And that's just like our entry one. We are going to increase that eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, $99, monthly. So we're not like just $3,200 and then we never hear from them again. It's like,
Yeah.
we still have like ongoing consistent revenue.
Yeah.
And then of course we'll have upsells and stuff on specials and stuff like that. So pretty exciting though. 2 call close.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. 1 call close.
Okay. So let me ask you this. When did you make the decision to go with paid ads for a lot of folks that are watching versus the organic? Because I remember, I feel like you spent like 6 months doing all the organic stuff and just kind of ironed it all out before you launched paid ads, but I don't want to assume.
Yeah, so we actually signed up for a $15,000 coaching program on our side. So we've been doing like a lot of stuff with like millionaires who make millions and millions every month. And like
Yeah.
we're getting a lot of stuff on that. And I think that is really like where it like went up to like the next level for me. Maybe I just had to like pay a lot of money for someone actually to like really like get me to sit down. um, but yeah, I did a lot of organic and stuff. But really, I mean, just seeing the paid ads, like, I mean, we got 44 leads within like one day with paid ads. Our customer acquisition is pretty high right now, but still, I'm still making a huge ROI, and I'm willing to pay $700 to get somebody on the phone and outspend all the all the other companies advertising in order to convert that sale and actually make that sale and instantly get cash back
Yeah.
as soon as on the call.
Yeah, it is crazy,
Love it.
because I remember talking to Joel Kaplan last year, and I had this argument. I was like, Joel, I think the best suggestion is to go with organic first, then go with paid ads. And he was like, Paulson, honestly, if they have the money and they have the courage, I think they can go straight to paid ads. And I'm like, Joel, how would they know what their offer is? They typically don't have the experience to feel great about the offer. He's like, well, that itself, it's another problem. But if they have an offer that makes sense, they can go with paid ads right out the gate. And I can see how that works. And congrats to you on investing into more, and figuring out the right strategy that works for you. But ultimately, the key is to have a self-fulfilling acquisition process. Now you can focus on your sales process, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
paid advertising and marketing is like a thing of the past, I assume. Now it's like, okay, how do I get my closers to function like me? How do I, and that was a really hard part for me because I felt like nobody, and maybe it was like my own ego getting in my own way, to be frank. I'm like, I don't think anybody can close like the way I can close because I was so confident, right? And my coaches told me, Paulson, you're not bringing in closers because they can outclose you. You're bringing in closers to open up your bandwidth. Maybe two, three of them at 60%, it's better than you by yourself at 100%. And that's when it like kind of opened my mind and I said, you know what? I'm okay with closers that come in that I have to spend time with and just, coach them up, knowing that they're going to leave me as soon as another offer comes out the way. Just making those sacrifices, but bandwidth is what I opened up on the sales side after a while, right? And then you do kind of do the same thing on the operations side, bringing in a director of operations, account management side, project management side, two different umbrellas that you have to build up. But yeah, you're on your way to scaling.
Thanks. I know I'm super excited. I can't wait to eventually get an a project manager. I have an account manager. I need a project manager.
Yeah, yeah. Cool.
Excited. Thanks.
Will, how are you, man? Are you still in San Antonio?
Oh yeah, yeah. Got an office down at the Pearl. I know you guys are in Dallas.
Yeah, haven't talked to you in a while. What's going on in your world? Are you guys running paid ads yet?
Um, a little bit, but for agency, our consulting business kind of fuels all our lead gen.
That's
So we've
right.
got more
Yeah,
than we can more
yeah,
than we can kind of work with. So haven't had to, probably could, but would cause probably some operational complexities that
yeah. You
you
don't need
know
any more business than you have. I remember.
uh, it's a problem. But hearing you talk about it, it's all paid ads really results in sales. And I guess one thing, I forget which question it was you were talking about, when you get it to the sale, the 20 memberships or whatever, selling what we do. And this is on the consulting side, but also of course on the agency side, is teach them lifetime value, on that initial phone call, because it's really hard to say, well, I can get you 20 memberships at 99 bucks a month. Well, that's a great idea. But if you tell them, well, actually it's worth 1,200. So actually, if you get those 20 leads, you convert 10 of them, that's 10,000 bucks in your pocket. Or, you know, 12,000 in your pocket over the whole year. It's just a different way of thinking. And that's
Yeah.
one sales component I think most people don't think about or talk about, is education of the client in that initial call to lifetime value. So
Yeah. Yeah, I typically in that initial call, I typically want to get them excited for the demo. In the demo, I educate them on the lifetime value and all those components. But if some people do that early and get them excited and say, hey, here's a math that we're working with and it works as well. I mean, I just don't want to, typically, I don't want to prolong that initial call to be like a 30-minute call. And so I don't go into these too many details. But I can see how that helps a lot when you do get to the demo and it's just like a layup.
yeah, and with us, it's very different because we already have prior relationships,
Right.
where we haven't really had to test, in the past 2 years. We haven't had to test anything
Yeah.
because we already have prior relationship. But
Yeah.
you can't beat relationship. That's why organic works so well.
Yeah,
So
remind me, Will, like you guys did high ticket consulting, right? Like you do an annual consulting package up front with your partner and then they back themselves into marketing services.
great memory. You must have some sort of CRM or something on me, huh?
Yeah, it's called high level up here.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one. Okay, I'll look into it. Um, yeah, no, but our consulting is, leadership, team building, more so attracting the higher level business owner per se, and just getting that freedom of time rather than freedom of money, right? Or freedom of
Yeah.
finance. And so, most people in our market, in the fitness market in general, haven't really walked the walk or don't understand, they're just running some ads. They're not teaching them how to grow a team.
Yeah.
And so most of our clients, like I said, are prior relationship there, but we don't include marketing in our consulting. We really have to teach them how to be better business owners and better, more calm people.
Yeah.
And then they happen to become
Yeah.
better agency clients at the same time.
Yeah. I think, and I think you guys avoid startups too, if I can remember correctly. So that opens
Yeah.
up a whole different umbrella. And, these are seasoned kind of veterans that have done a few things in business that you're kind of elevating. So that's a different lane that you guys are focused on. But hopefully, guys, you guys got some, and gals, you got some great ideas on paid advertising, some fundamental thoughts of how to evaluate it. I gave some numbers on budget, some parameters to look out for, and hope to continue on. I've reached out to a few of my top friends in the agency industry that handle hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on paid advertising for agencies themselves. So I'm going to try to see if somebody can come in and also now like open up an ad account and like show you the numbers of what it looks like. So I've reached out to a few friends. I don't want to mention any names. What if one of them say no? So we'll see. But we'll have rest of the month of paid advertising that we focus on. Don't get so fascinated with TikTok ads and YouTube ads or any of that stuff. I'm telling you, just focus on your offer. Start with Facebook ads, Instagram retargeting, then pivot into the added bonuses and channels as we go. Throughout the month, we'll talk about it. This month's workshop, I've requested Mr. Mike Cooch to come in, and we're going to go heavy with a lot of SaaS components, and we'll do a whole 2-3 day workshop like we normally do in the middle of the month to give you some ideas on high ticket SaaS, low ticket SaaS. And he's somebody with more SaaS experience than marketing agency experience. So you'll get a whole new perspective. But either way, any questions, anybody else that I can answer? Any follow-up questions to anybody who already had a question? Let me know. Okay, cool. All right. Have a good rest of your Monday, everybody. Oh, Yasmin, were you about to say something?
Put it in the chat. Just a
Okay.
quick one. So you're saying about validating your offer via organic. What would you say if, based off your experience or whatnot, is there a metric around that you think would be good? And more specifically to like coaching, consulting in terms of validating offer, like a certain number of clients or.
Well, no, it's not about closed offers. It's about accepted offers, right? So like if enough people are saying yes to the offers, whether they went through with it or not, depending on the reasons, if like, if I have at least 10, 15 people that have organically said yes to me, there is something there. That's not something I would ignore. Now, do you want as much organic proof as you possibly can? Yeah. I mean, the more the better. But I wouldn't wait for like 100 clients organically before I run paid ads. I would run paid ads the second month, right? Or third month if I feel comfortable. But what you want to do is see if there's confusion around the offer organically, right? If when you're getting on a prospect's call and they're like, well, I don't know if I want that. I don't know if that makes sense for me or whatever. Like if you get that kind of a response, what you want to do is ask them what's the perfect offer for them that makes sense, right? And then you get ideas of like elevating the offer from within the industry. And that's what I did in automotive. Automotive, at first I was like, okay, bring in more people, the better answer. And more I talked to automotive shop owners, they just wanted high ticket clients. They didn't want repairs. They didn't want brake jobs. They didn't want oil. They just wanted like something that was worth $5,000 or $6,000, right? Something that was worth a little bit more. Instead of dealing with hundreds of customers, they wanted 5 of the right ones. So then from there, I optimized my offer and said, hey, work with us, 10 lift kits guaranteed. Before that, my offer was like $50,000 to $60,000 additional revenue guaranteed, and that was like, it almost sounded scamish, right? So either way, you want to ask your crowd, that industry, what is the best possible offer that they would hire you for, right? What's the ideal situation? And that's where you can just kind of get better and better. Every quarter, your offer should get better, right? As you go, as you build your business, your offers will get better. But does that help?
Yeah, no, I think what you said about the accepted versus closed, because the accepted is, I'm good with that.
Yeah, they're
It's
verbally
getting,
saying, yes, that makes sense. Then even if
yeah,
they say, no, I'm not ready to start, that's okay because they're confirming interest of the actual offer. And that's what
yeah,
I paid attention to.
yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Have a good rest of your Monday, everybody. If you put down the questions, actually, there's like two more questions that just came in on the chat. Let me just address those. For someone starting out, not having the time to do enough cold callings and cold emailing, do you advise Facebook ads or still just focus on organic and cold prospecting? Either pay or spend time. That's it. Pay for the advertising or spend time for the leads. You have to decide. Right? So if you don't have the money to spend ads, you have to do the work behind getting organic prospecting done on your own. Otherwise, go pay for paid advertising. There's no other way to start. I don't recommend you getting a credit card and putting a loan up like some of the other coaches. I mean, I had a guy that came in like crying on my session, and he's like, "Dude, I spent $30,000 because I had two coaches tell me to get in debt and run paid ads." And I'm like, "Well, if you didn't have an offer and didn't decide on an industry, like, I don't know what to tell you." Like, so be careful spending the money. But if either way, that's the way I would go about it. Um, and why do you not want to do cold calling? Why do you not want to do cold emailing? Is it because of rejection? Is it because you don't have enough time? You know, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson says, don't forget about your 5 to 9 when you get home after your 9 to 5, right? That's the beginning of business. Do the work in the evenings and weekends, and get a couple of clients. It really doesn't take a lot of work to get one or two clients that's gonna like give you a shot. And I did it by saying, "Hey, I'm gonna charge you $500-600 a month or $1,000 a month, and I promise you, I'm not gonna spend this money. If something goes south, I'm gonna refund this back to you. After that first month and you're happy, I'm gonna actually spend this money on my own business." And that's the way I landed like 5 6 dental clients in the beginning. It was like almost like an arbitrage, but it worked, and that's the way you start. Okay. There was another question. Do you have a team for consultation? What did you mean by that, Miss Dickerson?
Hey, so Paulson, I'm new to
High level?
the agency. Yeah, I have high level. I've been on there. I actually went through your cold email series. I got a platform set up. I started sending out my cold emails actually this week to start with the organic. I have not. I did try a VA, but it was in the Philippines and it didn't quite work out. So taking your advice for the one. But as far as with the creatives and the Facebook marketing and like moving into the paid advertising, I know that they in the marketplace you can get them to kind of do your advertising, run your advertising. But for the consultation part, as far as like consulting with actually making the creatives and the offers from the Facebook and looking at the current offers that I have and saying, hey, this is how we can tweak this. This is how we can kind of change this and create like you said, the 6 or 7 different offers.
Yeah. Well, if you go through Marketplace, you'll get assigned with like an account manager that works with you typically, and they will kind of help you formulate some strategies. We did that a lot more in the early days compared to now. They don't do that as often. They're going to ask you for the offer. So just be, aware that they're not typically spending a lot of time strategizing. But if you need help, just jump on a call with me, which is speakwith.us/Paulson. I can help you put together your offers. But I'm not going to run your ads for you, right? So you have to either find a freelancer, which is probably what I recommend for your own agency ads, only because there's a ton of changes and it's very sensitive. Like there's a lot of, you're running like 4 or 5 different angles of an advertising, right? So if you go through Marketplace, it's going to be a long process. That's like a cruise liner trying to change direction. It takes time. Onboarding takes a while. Changes take a while, right? So I would use Marketplace for additional services that you're providing your client that you already provide some sort of services against. But I would get a freelancer, honestly, for a couple of $100 that can just handle your advertising for you, but have the offers. And for you to create those, just jump on a call with me. What industry are you going after? Have you decided?
Insurance industry.
What about insurance? What kind of insurance?
So gonna start out with PNC, property and casualty agents, and generating the leads for them, and then go into the life agents, like independent life agents. But the property and casualty, I'm going to start off with more captive agents that have like specific requirements to be able to stay captive with their companies.
Okay. How many clients do you have today, if you don't mind me asking, in that industry?
Currently, I'm only working with one.
Okay. What does that client have to tell you about the offers that you have? Like, what is their recommendation? Have you ever said, "Hey, I'm starting out my business. I would love to get feedback from you on what I've packaged up for you"?
No, I haven't. I haven't done it yet.
I would,
Yeah.
if you have a good relationship with them, that's one of the things that I would like. I actually, in the beginning, I would send my demos to the dental practices that I used to work at. There was this one dentist, she, bless her heart, she was like 80 or 85 years old, still practicing, and she just had this soft place for me. And I would reach out and I'll be like, "Hey, can you look at my material? What do you think? Help me launch my business." And she was like a pretty established, $10 million practice. And I would like walk into her place in Houston, buy the staff cupcakes and all kinds of stuff. And she would literally get involved with me on providing me feedback of my demos, like literally the language, the offers. And she started bringing me referrals just because I started asking her of her opinion. It was crazy. I'm like, sometimes it's just you being human and just, sharing your journey with other people that allows you to go fast. But that's something that I would recommend. The other thing is reach out to fellow insurance providers, like fellow marketing agencies, right? So even within the high level family, I would say Alex Branning. I think Nathan Olson is in the industry as well. Just put a comment in the Facebook group and ask, "Hey, can I collaborate with somebody? Would love to get your feedback." Half of them will try to sell you on another package. The other half will try to help you. So I would just tread lightly and share those things and see where you can go. But I would definitely continue the organic route a little bit more. If this is your early stages and you only have one client, I wouldn't jump into paid advertising unless I'm comfortable just yet, either with an offer or financially or whichever way. But I'm happy to help you if you just jump on a quick one-on-one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, everybody. Have a good rest of your Monday. Looking forward to seeing you on the Wednesday call. We'll have a SaaSpreneurs Lunch and Learn casual where everybody can just hang out and share ideas with each other. And then Thursday, more than likely, we'll have a guest that comes in, and I want to go through a couple of ad accounts this month and just kind of share those ideas with you. Worst case scenario, we'll have our own advertising ad buyers from High Level itself that I'll reach out and at least show you guys some SaaS advertising, at least to get you some new creative strategies going. Okay, but have a good rest of your Monday. Take care.